We are live, and I just want to welcome you back to our insurance series with Ryan Reckenberg from Allstate Insurance. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to insurance, and so you might be wondering what we're talking about today. And so, Ryan, go ahead and tell us what we are going to learn today.
Absolutely. Pleasure being back again. So today we're just going to be talking about fire safety, especially over the holidays. There's an increase of people plugging stuff in. I know I am. I have my house decorated like the Griswolds. And so just briefly to start out, this is a topic that's really close to my heart. And one of the reasons behind that is actually, I believe, 2, maybe 3 years ago. I was plugging in my fireplace, and then I had some lights also extending out from it to my tree. And we had a fire at our house, and so it actually ignited the extension cord as well as catching onto like some of the hardwood flooring and extending from there. So I myself have been given an education in this as well, and it's important to know when you're playing with electrical, when you're playing around with that kind of thing, to always be alert, always be aware. And so I'll give you a couple of steps or a couple of tips for some holiday safety tips while you're doing your lighting or while you're doing some situations like that. And so I think the most important ones coming from me would be always check your cords when you're pulling out your extension cords, when you're pulling out your decorations for the new year, for the Christmas time. Make sure you inspect them. Go from one end to the other and see if there's any staple marks, any holes, any wear and tear. Make sure there's no exposed wires. That's a major risk for them.
And if
The
there is
second,
exposed wires, no
oh,
electrical
throw
tape
it out.
around
Throw it out. Don't even bother with the electrical tape.
it.
I will rewire some things sometimes, but especially when you're talking about throwing like large lights and any kind of like lighting stuff that's going to be a constant drain, try to avoid using those. The other one is they age. People have had the same extension cords. I'm guilty of this as well, and so it's not just me. I know out there who has the 20-year-old extension cord that they've been using every Christmas, but they do deteriorate, they do age, they do crack. So make sure that you're inspecting them um, when you're putting. That would be my first number one tip. Number one tip is don't use old cords. Inspect your cords and check in on them every once in a while. Just it's essential to do, and I wish I had done it. It would have saved me a lot of scare, especially when I was cooking that night. And all I could smell was plastic. And if you do smell plastic when you plug in your cords to test them, that is your first sign. The second sign will be a fire. Pay attention to see if there's any strange smells around. The other one is throw out those old cords. Don't worry. It's not worth taking a risk with a cord that has a couple of cracks in it. With a cord that you think has seen better days, don't risk your home. Don't risk yourself in that situation. And extending onto that, when you're buying new cords, I'll call this one number two. When buying new cords, don't buy cheap cords. Don't go to the dollar store and buy your extension cord. Don't go and buy something off Amazon that you think, hey, this is a great deal for like a $10 extension cord. The reasoning behind it is there just like Gucci purses, just like anything else, there are knockoff extension cords that have fake certification. Make sure that you have something that is certified properly for what you want to use it for. So if you're using an outdoor cord to put up your outdoor lights, use an outdoor extension cord. If you're using them internally, make sure that they're certified by either the CSA or by EEA. So, like either the Electrical Association or Canadian Safety. Don't buy discount cords. And then just don't. The other one that I didn't think of or didn't know until I had my fire was don't run the extension cords under rugs, under appliances, under furniture, and don't run them through windows, doorways, anywhere where there'll be additional wear and tear on them, issues like that. If you have an electric garage door, don't try to feed it underneath the door. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. It's really not worth it. Find a plug that's external and use that one. And then keep the cord up and out and away from the wet spots as well.
Right.
So those are essentially, if you want my essentials. If you're plugging it outside, even if you have some inside, there's new plug systems called GFCIs, which are essentially, you'll see them in a lot of bathrooms. They have two little buttons. One is like a ground fault. So if anything does go wrong, it will automatically clip off and there's no harm, no foul. A lot of external plugs don't really have them. My house didn't. I had them put in just for that reason.
You're talking
Couple
about
of other,
the side plugs, right?
yeah, like if you have them inside, great. If you don't, it's not too big a worry. But if you have them outside, look into having GFCI plugs put in. They're relatively simple to install. You can do them yourself. I did my own. But essentially, it just prevents, if something does go wrong, it's going to interrupt and there will be no issue. It just automatically shuts it off as soon as there's an issue anywhere along the line that it detects. If you're using outlets or fuses or anything and it keeps tripping when you have your decorations up, say you decorated your tree, you have like your 8,000 lights all over it and all of your ornaments. I have mine. If it keeps tripping a fuse, make sure that you stop right there and kind of go step by step back and try to decrease what you're loading into that until it will accept it. And don't leave your lights on forever. So don't try to set them up so that there is a rest time so that they're not constantly heating. Even the little like LED ones do have heat to them, and do cause a draw on power. So try to give them a rest. Don't, and the last one is, and don't leave your Christmas decorations up all year. If they're up and out, especially outside, you know there's those neighbors and they have like their Christmas lights up all the year and they don't take them down. I mean, it does save you work, but you can't get at the cords. You can't see what's going on if there's any issues. Say, for example, you've like tried to staple gun something in and you've actually nicked a cord or something. You won't know about it until it's too late.
Right.
So those are the essential ones I would guess. Do you have any questions? I know there'll be a ton.
Yeah. So, in the case where there's there is a fire and there is damage, like yourself, what kind of insurance should they ensure that they have so that something like this is covered?
We're pretty lucky, like in the Canadian market, especially. All house coverage will essentially, it would be what we would consider in the industry as a specified peril. So fire is a big one. It is common. It's what essentially founded the insurance historically. So like way back in like the 1700s, it started out at mills and it started out in farmland, insuring essentially large groups of people against fire. That was the primary. And because historically that's why, even the most basic house coverage that you could have, if you have like constructor builder's risk, it would be included. If you have like the best or like the top coverages covered, it would also be covered. It's an essential coverage that is on any home policy.
Right.
Same thing with your vehicle. So if there's ever a fire, know that you're protected. If you do smell and if something does go wrong, always make sure that you call in the fire department, call for help, even if you think it's minor. If there's like a small fire in a fuse box, or if there's a small fire in an extension cord, like in our case, call to have the fire department come in no matter what, because it can actually go back into the actual structure of the house and you wouldn't know it. So then if there's a problem along the wiring, it can burn internal structures and components. And then ignite somewhere that you don't even see it. So make sure you have them come in and check it.
Very good advice.
That's the insurance check for it.
Good advice.
But
Good advice. And yeah, and so the reason why I asked that because, and I'm sure we'll talk about floods on another call, but sometimes certain things aren't covered. So that's what I wasn't sure if all fires accidental, you know what I mean, like were covered and
unless you're found to be negligent in doing something, it will be covered.
right. Okay.
If there's like a pure negligence, if you have an electrical cord and you're throwing it into like buckets of water, or like if there's a reason for them to say, well, you didn't really take undue or necessary reasoning, you
Right.
didn't show common sense,
Right.
then you may be in trouble. But the majority of the time, it would be covered, especially if it's a non-fault reason.
Okay. Very good. And so having your lights and your tree, for example, on like a special timer, that would obviously be the best option for Christmas decorations and Christmas lights, I would assume.
Oh, timers are ideal because it's then you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. It's ease of use, ease of mind. Also make sure if you do have little ones, if you do have like fur babies, keep your eyes on both children, both animals. Make sure that they're not in and around, not clawing, not chewing, not
Hmm.
essentially exposing wires, because that's a common one, and it's a common cause as well. So
Yeah.
it's worth keeping in mind. Just do your due diligence. Make sure that you're essentially using common sense when dealing with things. Is as dangerous as fire and electrical.
Right. Amazing. Well, I think that's a really good way to kind of start off on December 1st for some holiday fire tips. I think that is great. And yeah, we'll be back in the new year to start a new series in 2024.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful holiday season, everybody, and all the best.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Be safe.